What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Passionate DJ Podcast. I'm your host, David Michael, and this is episode 166. Now, I'm going to be joined shortly by a special guest on the show, my good friend KimL, and she's a local DJ here in my hometown. She has a couple residencies. She plays at a silent disco a couple times a month, which has been really successful here locally. She's played at EDM Tuesdays for a couple of years now, which is a local event that we've talked about a number of times on the show, along with another friend who's been on the show before, John Chappell, which recently celebrated 10 years of running, which is just a really long time for a show like that to be running. She's been involved with that for the past couple of years, and it's started to kind of wane, so we talk a little bit about that. We talk a little bit about the silent disco and how that works out, and other things that are related to her coming into the scene, because she's been involved in this for about 3 years now, which I thought was an interesting time period. And I realized, we'd been talking about wanting to get Kim on the show for a while now. It's something I talked to John about before I had really started talking to Kim myself, and then we finally got it arranged. And she came in to talk, and I'm glad that we did, because she's in a certain range where she's been in this for 3 or 4 years, which probably describes a lot of our audience, and yet that's a range of experience that we don't seem to directly address a whole lot on the show. We talk a lot about beginner DJs, and we talk a lot about veteran DJ stuff and stuff about the old rave scene and the history of DJing and things like that. But there's this in-between that we feel like we've kind of neglected, and Kim fits perfectly right into that spot. And so we wanted to bring her in as a guest, and she had a lot of great things to share because she's already becoming a really well-rounded DJ. She has a lot of great things to share with us as far as what it's like to get involved with the scene in the past couple of years, here in a fairly small town. Now, those of you who are watching the video version of this podcast are going to notice that I'm not in my normal spot, and that's because Passionate DJ Studios is having a little bit of work done at the moment. I'm having a wall put up and some doors, and so I'm recording in my living room right now, which is why you may be seeing my cats walk by every now and then. Hopefully they stay quiet. But we'll be in Passionate DJ Studios for the rest of the interview, because I recorded that before the work started and just recorded this intro here in my dining room. So speaking of YouTube, I've been basically doing YouTube versions of the past, I lost count, 10 or 20 episodes of the Passionate DJ podcast, and it's really been working out, and I'm really excited to be doing it. And it's not something that I officially announced on the show that I would be doing, because honestly I was a little afraid to commit to it. Historically, Passionate DJ has been an audio talk show, and anything that we did that was video content was sort of a bonus. But that's a little bit antiquated these days. You almost have to have this visual aspect. That's what we all want to consume, content in video form. And so while we still record the podcast with the intent of treating it like a radio show and making it work for an audio audience, the important thing is getting a good recording of the audio. We're starting to do these videos, video versions of the recording of the podcast, just like you see other podcasts do. And we really enjoy doing it, and I never, like I said, really wanted to announce that we were doing that officially for every episode, because I wasn't sure that we'd be able to keep up, and yet for the past 20 or so episodes, we've been putting them all up on YouTube. And so I think it's safe to say that we're going to be doing that from now on. So I hope that you will check us out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/passionatedj. Okay, now I want to get on to our conversation soon with Kim, but before we do that, I do want to play this voicemail message from Sean. And just a reminder to you that we do take voicemail messages. All you have to do is go to passionatedj.com, go to the podcast menu, click leave a voicemail, and you can leave us a voice message up to 90 seconds or so. We take questions, comments, hate mail, whatever you want to send our way. We will take it, and if it's relevant to the audience, we will play it on the show, just like we're going to do here for Sean. So here is the voicemail.
Hey David, this is Sean from Houston, Texas. I just want to let you know that I listen to almost every single podcast they have released, And every single time I listen to your podcast, I see myself in that position. I see myself as the turntablist. I see myself as the one playing the unique music to all the people around the world. I see myself headlining, being the successful music producer that I've always wanted to be since 12 years old. And just thinking and reading and listening to all the things that you give me, all these tips and all these steps, all help me into furthering this career. And if there's anything that you really want to hear, is a person that's very passionate about DJing, and that's me, about furthering their career in music production and enhance the music world, just not just by DJing, by producing and giving people what exactly they want to hear, giving a variety to the world. I'm going to be that person, and I would really just love to speak on you one-on-one, considering the fact that you made it big, and if anything, you were probably a very big person in my eyes. I thank you for your time, and hopefully you hear this.
Okay, wow, Sean. So first of all, just wow, thank you so much for all those kind words, and it really warms my heart to know that Passionate DJ has affected your life in a positive way, and that you resonate with our message, and that we've had that connection. That's why me, Tony, Trip, and Mo do this show. It's to be able to connect with people like you, and I'm really glad that it's touched you in some way or another. So thank you for calling in to let us know that in your own voice. We really appreciate that. Feel free to reach out to me through email, would probably be the easiest, david@passionatedj.com. Put Sean voicemail or something in the subject line so I know who you are and make sure that I see it, and we can keep talking and see what some of your struggles are. And I will at least get in touch with email and get the conversation started. And just, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and, from the rest of the team. It really means a lot that you took the time to let us know that you're liking what we're sending out to the world. Okay, one last thing before we get into our main topic. At the end of the show, after the outro music plays, I'm going to play a small bonus clip, just a piece of the conversation that Kim and I had after the outro music played and we were done recording the actual podcast and we took our headsets off. The camera was still rolling and we kept on talking, and there was a lot of good conversation in there. And, that's the sort of stuff that I can't put in the main show. The audio quality is a little bit different than the rest of the recording because it's from a different mic. But it's very listenable, and we take that stuff that's like deleted scenes and we put those in our bonus show. And so I'm going to give you sort of a teaser clip after the show today of 5 or 10 minutes worth of that conversation, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And now to my conversation with KimL. I have a special guest with me. Kim, introduce yourself to the audience. Welcome aboard.
I go by KimL.
KimL, and you are a DJ here in Dayton, Ohio.
I am.
And so maybe describe your sound a little bit to the audience and tell us what you're about.
I would say my sound, I resonate usually in house, but fairly multi-genre, just kind of flow in and out of whatever. And
how long have you been in the DJ biz?
It'll be 3 years coming up this December, actually.
3 years.
Yep.
Okay. And so I know you from like Therapy Cafe and EDM Tuesdays and stuff, and that was kind of how I was introduced to you, but I'm not sure where your interest started. What got you into the whole thing?
I've always been pretty musically inclined. I grew up playing piano. I picked up violin. I picked up a little bit of guitar.
I played piano as well.
And I was in choir pretty much my whole life, like with school and church and, whatever. And then once I got to college, I couldn't really bring my instruments with me to my dorm room and whatnot. So I kind of lost that outlet a little bit. Mm. And then so I moved back to Dayton, and I was out one night with some friends, and my friend was like, "Oh, hey, like I know a DJ. Like let me introduce you." So I was like, "Okay, that's cool." So then that was when I met John Chappell.
Yeah.
And
it's been on the show. Been a while, John.
And I just kind of asked him, "Hey, I'm interested in that, I guess. Can you just show me like how the buttons work? I mean, it was never really like I want to, be somebody or, I guess do something with it. I just really just was curious about it. So he had me come in on Tuesdays at therapy, and he just showed me what some things do, and I just kept going every Tuesday and just practicing, and here we are.
And you started in virtual DJ, is that right?
Yes.
Started in virtual DJ. What do you prefer to play on now? I know you've explored some other platforms, but do you have like a preferred way to DJ?
I still reside mainly in virtual DJ.
Okay.
It's just what my controller works on right now. But obviously, I've played on Pioneers a couple times. If I had that to work with, then that would probably be where I am. Yeah.
And you use a controller at home?
Mm-hmm.
As American Audio, is it?
Yes, it's
Okay.
American Audio. VMS5.
And how is that? Because I've never had a chance to use an American Audio controller. I've used other American Audio stuff, but not a controller.
Well, I started with a Newmark.
Oh, okay.
It was a 2-channel, and then
Is that mixed track or?
yes.
Okay.
I think the 3 Pro 3 maybe.
Okay. Very popular starter controller for sure.
And then Nathaniel from therapy actually gifted me the American Audio, which is a 4-channel, and I'm still trying to figure out the 4-channel part, but as a whole it's good.
So lately you've been playing on a lot of Pioneer rigs. You played at Mask not too long ago, and you're playing a show in 2 weeks from this Saturday of when we're recording this, so probably after this episode published you'll already have played it, but tell us a little bit about that show and what's going on there.
It is next Saturday. So
Okay.
a week from
A week
this,
from,
yeah,
yeah.
a week from this Saturday. So that will be at Scully's up in Columbus.
Okay.
I'll be opening for AC Slater
Nice.
again.
Again, she
Again,
says.
yes.
Man, veteran now.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of stuff are you going to play going in? Do you have something in your head, like energy-wise or style-wise, or do you always play a similar style, or what's your approach for these like headliner shows?
I've learned with opening for bigger names to kind of cater a little bit of my style, I guess you could say,
Sure.
to lead up to the headliner. So AC Slater is a little, I guess he calls it a genre like UK garage, or it's kind of minimal but like housey. So that's kind of I'll be playing like my take on that, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So where would you like to take the conversation? Do you want to talk more about gear and learning how to go that direction? Do you want to talk about playing these bigger shows? Do you want to talk about therapy? We have silent disco. We can talk about that. I'll leave it up to you. Where do you want to aim here? And we'll go that direction.
I don't know.
I'm throwing you under the bus here,
Sure.
I know.
We can talk a little bit about, I guess my journey so far.
Yeah.
And
So you started playing not even playing necessarily, but started showing interest at therapy, and then eventually playing there for EDM Tuesdays and other things. And then that eventually led to you playing these bigger shows at a pretty quick rate, rate of growth,
Right.
as an artist, I would say.
Yeah.
I remember going a few times and hearing people, hey, have you seen that Kim? Have you seen her? You go check her out. I had never heard her play before. And so I kept hearing the buzzing and stuff. And so, you've made an impression locally. I guess, how did you get to the playing the shows where you're like a supporting
Sure.
role?
I was practicing every Tuesday, and therefore a part of EDM Tuesday, and my, I guess, first show, Tony DeSaro had picked me. What what was that, monthly?
First Fridays.
First Fridays, yeah. So that was my first like big show, and that was like within, I think, like 3 months of me having started. So that was really cool. Just to have that kind of support, since I had just started, and I wasn't planning on it being anything, to have someone, I guess, recognize that was really cool. And so, I just kept at it.
Yeah.
And, I guess, like you said, just people hearing about me and, whatnot, it just kind of spread out, and people were contacting me for bigger things, I guess.
And then in the meantime, you started getting really kind of integrated there at therapy with, specifically with an EDM Tuesday, and how would you describe it? They had a residency there, or at least you were a very recurring presence there for sure.
Yeah, so I would go in every Tuesday early before people would get there, and I would practice for about 2 hours before the actual lineup started.
Okay.
And sometimes, if we didn't have anyone, opening or, whatever, then I would just fill in certain gaps. So I got, I guess you could say, some exposure there.
Did you seek out the gigs, or did they come to you as a result of people either seeing you or like word of mouth? What's your impression of how you landed those gigs locally?
I think it was more of like a word of mouth, and then just like one thing led to another, kind of. So, we were doing the Tuesdays at therapy, and then the Mask started doing something similar on Thursdays.
Right.
And so, hop between the two, and then the Mask was pulling in artists from like Columbus and Cincinnati and things like that. So I was like kind of networking there.
Yeah.
And also, that I was playing, so, that was exposure as well. And that was where I met Bryson from my best friend's party up in Columbus.
Yep.
And he liked my stuff, and so he, like a month or two after that, had asked me to open for AC Slater, and that was closing out my first year of DJing.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
And so, kind of bringing it back to the EDM Tuesday thing, you started kind of getting more integrated there, and then I think you started doing booking for other DJs there. And just to remind the audience, for those who are newer listeners, EDM Tuesday was a local night here in Dayton, Ohio, and a lot of DJs in the past 10 years or so have gotten their start by playing these free shows. It was, never any cover, with one or two exceptions for special shows, I think, over 10 years. It was always a free show, and it was always pretty much not open decks, but kind of open sign-ups for the most part. And then you started doing bookings for that. So what have you seen since I watched the whole EDM Tuesday lifespan over the past, is it 10 years? Is that?
Yeah, we just
right?
had our 10-year like a month or two ago.
Yeah. So I kind of have watched that cycle. At what did you come in 3 years ago, or had you been attending prior to that?
I just came in like 3 years ago.
You just walked in. Okay. So what's your impression of how the past 3 years of that have gone, and what have the struggles been? Because I know you've seen this, intimately for the past couple of years, and you've been really involved with it. And I know there's been trouble with attendance and things like that. So I'm wondering what you've seen there, and if there are any plans for the future, and what's going on in the world of EDM Tuesday.
So when I first came into the scene, or that scene, 3 years ago, every Tuesday was, it got sweaty in there, it was like packed.
Yeah.
And, everyone had a good time. The DJs were great. And then I would say, maybe over the last 2 years, things have kind of dwindled a little bit. We're not exactly sure what's going on. We're still getting new DJs to get added to the lineup. We're still bringing back, old DJs. So there's still variety there.
Yeah.
We're just kind of thinking that the crowd that was there 3 years ago, maybe people are growing up and, have adult jobs and can't
kids
come
and jobs
out
and
on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
That's pretty difficult. So I don't know. I mean, right now, I believe that from a business standpoint, it's not quite working out.
Okay.
In that sense, so we're kind of, I guess, broadening the format of EDM Tuesday to just more of an open format for
Okay.
everyone.
Is it still going to be the same format as far as having guest rotation of DJs, or is it going to be more of a resident DJ situation there?
I think we're still going to have a little bit of residency with, maybe one or two guests.
Okay.
But
So you're pivoting the business model to try to cater to the current climate, whatever's going on.
yeah, so we'll still have a little bit of EDM, but it won't be a complete whole night of
Gotcha.
EDM.
Gotcha. It's still a weekly? Well,
Yes.
it's every Tuesday, I guess. You'd be open. Okay. So, yeah, it's too bad that John couldn't be here to talk about this, too. I'm sure he's got some thoughts on it. But part of me wants to say, like, this is just what's happening in general. Like, people just aren't going out as much. And, I've heard that before. But at the same time, you had the silent disco thing at therapy is like
Right.
exploding. Like I thought that was going to be a one-off, and then it came back. I'm like, oh, cool, they're doing it again. And then all of a sudden, how often is that happening now?
The silent disco, it started off once a month.
Yeah.
It was usually the last Friday of the month. Now that we're about a year and a half into it, sometimes there are more than 4 Fridays in the month. So usually when there's 5 Fridays, we'll do a pop-up, so we'll do 2. But, man, every month there's still new people coming out.
It's packed out. They
it's
love
amazing.
it. They love it. I was amazed that, I thought this would be a very short-lived thing. I thought it'd be a novelty. And, I mean, now it's the thing people are coming out for.
Right.
So it's... I don't know if you and everybody there agrees, but to me it seems kind of like maybe that has replaced EDM Tuesday in a way as being like that same kind of go out, have fun crowd is now doing that.
Right, yeah.
Which is awesome. I mean, because it's not like there's no EDM there. I'm sure, that gets played and, hip-hop gets played and, all the traditional bar jams get played and you get a choice to, to switch between whichever one that you want. So, that's super awesome. I guess I should let you explain how that works. The silent disco, you are one of the DJs a lot of the time or all the time, correct?
I think that I've only missed one.
And then there's two other DJs.
There's John Chappell and Dylan, who goes by Sexbox.
Yeah. And you all play at the same time. You have different stations.
Yeah, we're positioned at different parts of the bar, yeah.
And so how does that audio routing work? Like, does all that stuff go to the house mixer, or does that go to some other setup that you do specifically for silent disco? Or
so the headphones and all of the, I guess, the technical stuff, we rent that from a different company. So, when we have the disco, he comes in with boxes of headphones and things like that. And so basically we set up our controllers to this little, it looks like a little Wi-Fi router.
Oh, like a transmitter. Okay.
A transmitter, yeah. So from there, I don't know where it goes. But so yeah, we each have a little wireless thing, and
so it's got it probably just goes straight to the headphones. It's got like 3 different bands.
I think so,
one for
yeah.
each. So you have like a green and a blue and a red.
blue and red, yeah.
And that determines who you're listening to.
Right.
So how does that dynamic play out when you're in the room? Does that get in your head if like you're the blue DJ and you see a sea of red? Does it freak you out, or is it?
Oh,
I mean, what is that?
For sure. I mean, when we first started, playing the silent disco, it was like we had no idea, I guess exactly how to work the crowd, or how to play for 6 hours, and still maintain energy. So it's just kind of been. I guess every disco is a lesson. You learn something, but it's paying attention to the crowd, and it is like a competition. Like we'll get on the mic and say things about the other DJ or, you know, whatever. It's all fun.
Yeah.
And, you know,
it helps that you all know each other
Yeah.
and stuff, I'm sure.
And it gets, you know, the crowd involved and hyped, and, you know, then there's like all different teams, and, you know, people prefer, you know, other channels versus other channels. So, you know, it creates kind of this like community almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, just really watching, you know, oh, I think I'm going to play this song. I think it's going to hit, but, you know, let me see. So, you know, you kind of scan the crowd, see,
Yeah.
you know, where you're at approximately according to color. And then you play that song, and either everybody's going to switch off or, you know, people will start tapping their friends like, you know, get this color, and then you'll see it change. It's really cool.
The cool thing about that is you get instant data,
Mm-hmm.
like visual data, by just looking out. Like if you play, like, I don't know, play Regulators or something, and then you see everyone go click, 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 and it just goes
Yeah.
blue or whatever. You're like, all right, I'm going to remember that for next time. Do you
Yeah.
have like a grab bag of those tunes now that
Yeah.
works every time or has a good chance?
Yeah, there's you know, certain songs that like everyone knows. So like I play the EDM channel.
Okay.
So, you know, there's certain songs like Every Time We Touch, Cascada. You
Yeah.
know, everyone knows that song. And, you know, it's a super happy, like hype song. So, you know, when you feel like, you know, people are kind of dwindling, not quite interested, you know, play that song, guarantee you everybody's going to be tapping each other. They'll switch over, and then, you know, for me it's fun, I guess, with playing EDM is what you do once you get the people there.
Okay.
You know, so like you get everybody on that channel with that certain energy level, and then
I've got you right where I want you.
yeah, so then, you know, it's what you do after that, you know, that really gets people to, I guess, you build a rapport, you build that trust with them.
Okay.
You know, like usually when I do Every Time We Touch, I'll transition it into like a really hard trap song.
Okay.
Which seems strange, but, you know, like energy wise, people just kind of continue riding that flow.
You probably have to give a lot of variety within your own channel, right? Because people are there to check out the variety, and they're switching it around no matter what. So if you
Right.
play the same sound for a long time, I'm speaking without experience here, but I'm assuming that you're going to lose people pretty quickly
Yeah.
if you play like the kind of techno set that I might play at a normal, like a three-dimensional show that's meant for that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you have 6 hours to play.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And so, you know, if anybody plays their specific genre for that long, it's not going to fly.
Yeah.
So, you know, with having played the disco for, you know, a year and a half now, you know, it's really broadened my library. And like, I guess my transition skills, like within different genres, and, you know, understanding when to play what genre, and, you know, when to, you know, okay, maybe that didn't work. I'll try that again in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, it's really about timing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Before we move on to the next question, I do want to remind our audience about our monthly bonus show. It's called After Party. You can access that by becoming a patron at patreon.com/passionatedj. The way that works is you can sign up. You can pledge any amount monthly that you want to support the Passionate DJ podcast, and you gain access to our monthly show, and at a very low tier. And not only do you get access to future episodes of the bonus show, but you get access to every show up to this point that you've missed. So as soon as you sign up, you unlock all that stuff going back. We're on, I don't know, the 6th or 7th version of After Party coming up. So you get access to all that stuff going back, the back catalog. And it's just a show full of deleted scenes and side conversations and stuff like that. Stuff that didn't make it into the original show, or stuff that we recorded just for the supporters of the show. So definitely sign up, patreon.com/passionatedj. Also, we have merch. I'm wearing the Deep House is for Lovers t-shirt right now in heather blue. It is so comfy. It's like that stretchy, like soft material, real nice and comfy, well fitted. This is, like I said, the heather blue. We have a couple different colors, so those of you watching on YouTube right now can see that. We also have the Coexist shirt, which is kind of a play on the Coexist logo, but it's got like DJ formats in there, like CD and vinyl and stuff. And then, of course, all the Passionate DJ logo swag that you want. We've got hoodies, shirts, all that kind of stuff. Check that out at passionatedj.com/merch. We spoke a little bit before the show, and we were just talking about, what do we want to talk about, and we didn't want to plan it too much. We just kind of have a conversation. There's a lot that seems to be changing in our world and our scene, hopefully for the better, but it's a struggle to kind of navigate these waters of equality and that sort of stuff. So being that you've been in this 3 years or so, what has your experience been as far as getting into the scene locally, in regards to equality or anything else that you want to talk about, just as a new DJ? How many roadblocks have you encountered? I
think,
if any.
Sure. The industry itself, I would say most recently, you're seeing more females come out, which is really cool. Locally, I don't think that has ever, I guess, counted against me, you could say. I think if anything, it's maybe even like a leg up, or, I guess you could put it as like another marketable aspect about me, which is cool.
You don't feel like it's held you back as far as like people treating you inappropriately or differently, like, especially, white men in the industry, telling you how to play, or did you ever feel like you were denied gigs or anything like that? And I only ask because I don't ever see that locally, but I wouldn't, you know what I mean?
Right,
so
yeah.
I never want to make assumptions about that sort of stuff.
I don't think that it's like deterred, or I don't think that it's been any sort of roadblock for me. But then again, I haven't played anywhere outside of Ohio, let's say. So I'm not sure how that would be elsewhere, but I haven't seen anything around here, I guess you could say. Everyone's been very, inviting and loving, and just the EDM community itself is.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. I've heard that from other people that I've asked locally, other women in the industry and other women DJs. But I try not to make any assumptions, but I always try to ask if the person is willing to receive that kind of question, because not everybody likes to talk about that, but because I want to know what we can do to be better allies in this, and whether that's just speaking as another male DJ or as Passionate DJ or anything else. So
far I haven't encountered anyone like that.
Sure.
So that's
I don't want to jinx it either.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. What about just in growth as a DJ or as an artist in general? What have your biggest roadblocks been? Whether that's as it relates to the scene or hardware or knowledge or mental state. What holds you up, if anything?
I think, the amount of time to practice. Obviously, it's something that always needs to be practiced, and
like a time management.
Yeah, I have time set aside. I just wish I had way more.
Yeah.
But
You're here.
Yeah. So aside from that, in terms of growth, most recently, I was talking to you about producing software and things like that. Obtaining the software was a little bit of a hang up. Still might be, but I'm still trying to, work around it, or, whatever.
What's your software of choice for production so far?
So far I've had a little bit of exposure to Ableton and also to FL Studios.
Okay. Both are great.
Seemingly right now, I'm drawn more to FL Studios, I think.
Okay. Any particular reason?
I think it's just visually, to me, it seems more intuitive. Like I was saying earlier, Ableton seems very 2D and kind of just technical, as opposed to FL Studios, I guess, where certain packages of sounds, it'll pop up like a little virtual
interface.
Like a little virtual interface, and you can see, like these virtual knobs that you can twist. And
FL Studio has a lot more visual flair, I guess, in it, whereas like Ableton is a little more Spartan, and it's like everything's kind of like the same fonts and knobs and things, which for having a nice, simple, clean interface is nice, but if it's difficult for like attaching a memory to something, like, oh, that one filter works with that red knob or something,
Right.
So it's kind of,
it doesn't quite seem like entry level.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, I think that FL Studio is more intuitive, but I'm like extremely biased because I've been using FL Studio since I was like 15 or something. So since it was called Fruity Loops 3.0 or whatever, it was like a glorified drum machine, back then. And so of course I would think it's more intuitive, right? It's just, I don't have a good context for that anymore. But I like the thought of Ableton, and I like that a lot of my friends use it, so it would make it real easy to collaborate with them. And I like its time stretching capabilities. It's real good at their warping system is real good at like snapping things to time. So if you're trying to do DJ like stuff, that's the go-to software.
You mean like live?
Either. You can warp the tracks to kind of like a beat grid, but then you can like change it on the fly. So it could, like, if you had a part where the tempo changed, you could still make it work. So it's real good at that sort of thing, but just the actual workflow, I'm so used to FL Studio that I've just never been willing to make the jump yet, and I've never really had a reason to, other than the collab thing. They all do everything now. They're all good. So it's a matter of preference anymore. What kind of stuff have you been trying to produce? Is it similar to what you DJ, or have you explored other sounds?
Well, so my very brief experience with Ableton, it was more of just like, this is how this is where you go to find this, and find that, and then later that night I tried to do it myself, and I was like, I don't remember. I don't remember anything. And then my experience with FL Studios, a friend of mine, it was about, he said 30 minutes before I got to his house, he did maybe like a minute's worth of something quick that he just kind of whipped up. And so we sat there for 2 or 3 hours and just kind of like messed with it a little bit. He was, I guess you could say, the captain, with the mouse and doing all of the things that I was just verbally suggesting. So that was kind of cool to at least see how someone uses it. As opposed to someone just showing me like, this is what this is. So it was a little more, I guess, immersive in that way.
So is that kind of where your next area of focus is production, or what else do you have? What do you want to be doing as an artist?
I mean, I think in terms of producing, it's been something that's been on my mind, and I feel like for anyone who DJs, that's kind of like the next step. If you start out DJing, that is the next step, to be like an all-encompassing DJ. So I think in terms of that, I'm going to be diving more into that, but also still doing that, like actual DJing.
Do you have like what would be like your ideal gig? Like, who would you want to open for, or what festival would you want to play?
Oh my
or
gosh.
What would be like the aim high thing for you?
I mean, like I said, when I started out, there was there was not even, a goal. It was just, I'm just doing this and I'm having fun,
That's why I ask. I wonder
Yeah.
if that's changed now that you have a few years of experience doing this. Are you so used to thinking, are you just riding the wave and seeing where it takes you, or
Yeah.
do you have like aspirations of particular goals or anything like that you want to be doing?
I mean, I feel like for the most part, I'm just kind of riding the wave. I want to keep it as much of a passion as possible. I don't want to end up playing gigs where someone is telling me what to play.
Right.
Or, I'm not trying to like put myself into a box with anything.
So you don't want to lose that artist side of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is started out as a passion, and, I want to keep it that way and, just kind of grow from there. Like wherever it takes me, then I'll go there.
I think that's cool because I think that approach is a good path to happiness, because you're kind of like always happy as long as things are happening, right? Like, not to speak for you, but I mean, just to have that attitude, like, it's easy to set a goal that's here and then to feel like you're always just reaching for that goal and
Right.
never, hitting that. Whereas you're kind of like, hey, this is fun and I'm going to do it as much as people want to hear it. And with that kind of attitude, you keep on doing it and you keep on enjoying it, and those things keep growing on their own because you're enjoying it. And so I think that's a great attitude to have, because it's a lot easier to stop and smell the roses while it's all happening, rather
Right.
than to feel like you're just grinding all the time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people get stuck in that grind. I get
mean,
stuck in that grind.
People really, feel your energy and,
Yeah.
your excitement when you're playing. And, I want to be able to maintain that. I don't want to just stand up there and press buttons and, get paid at the end of the gig or whatever, I want to just share all these cool songs that I found, or, I want to take the audience, on a journey, and like
Yeah.
we'll all have fun, or whatever. Like that's where I want to keep it. So in terms of like big goals, and I don't really have any.
Just have fun.
Yeah. I mean, so far everything's just kind of just come to me. In terms of like big gigs and opening for big people, like it's just all just kind of happened. And
So I'll ask you kind of another throw you under the bus question. Now that you are no longer a novice, but not yet a veteran,
okay.
what have you learned in this past 3 years that really has kicked you forward? Like, what's been the best thing for you as an artist developmentally? What advice would you give to the audience in that respect?
From like DJ to DJ, I guess, just keep your tracks fresh. There is some, nostalgia in playing old songs, but you want to, stay relevant, and let's say someone sees you for the second or third time. You don't want to be playing the same songs. You don't want to be playing the same set.
And that's something you have to worry about because you play so many gigs, really. I mean, you have residencies, so you have people who go back to the same place. And
Right.
so if you're not, you're not necessarily playing the top 40 hits of right now. You're playing maybe top 40 hits of, extended over time, and plus EDM and remixes of those things. And so
Right.
you have stuff to connect with the audience and things. But if they hear that same remix, 5 times in a row, maybe they lose interest.
Right.
Have something to, attach to you other than, oh, that's that person that plays that, Snoop Dogg remix or whatever
Right.
it is,
I mean, it's, just make sure that you're always growing, in whatever aspect of DJing or, whatever. Whether it's learning how to use a new button, or, finding new songs, or, you want to perfect a certain transition or
Yeah.
something like that. Just make sure that, it's not always the same thing.
And that's one thing that I've noticed about you, and I want to make sure you don't sell yourself short here, because you're not afraid to attack these things head on. And I mean, you come over here and mess with the Pioneer rig all the time, and you want to make sure that Record Box, and you want to make sure Virtual DJ if you're going to be playing on that. You want to know how to use this kind of hardware versus that kind of hardware. And I've been kind of a third party watching that happen a little bit and seeing you take on all those different things. And you don't necessarily have to. And not everybody takes the time or has the interest in doing that. You say that all these things have kind of come to you and fallen in your lap, but you've put in the work too, and you're still putting in the work. And and I think that's to be commended. I don't, stuff comes to you, but you got to do something with that shit.
Right,
you know what I mean?
you get met halfway.
Yeah.
The amount that you put into anything, you'll be met there. So, it's a passion of mine, and I do want to continue growing with it, and things just happen because people see that, because people recognize that and can sense that, can feel that.
Yeah. Cool. Kim, thank you so much for being here on the Passionate DJ podcast. I wish you only the best in all these pursuits. Definitely come back and talk to us again, and we'll get some updates on how things are going with whatever you're calling EDM Tuesday now, sure. And Silent Disco, and your development as an artist, because I think that you're in a sweet spot of our audience, where some people, they find Passionate DJ podcast because they are either a brand new DJ or they're thinking about becoming one, and then they find like one of my articles or something, and then they get introduced to the podcast. And then we have veteran DJs that have, like, word of mouth, that have joined, through that way. And then there's this in between, this like I said, not yet a veteran, no longer a novice. And I think that's probably where most of our audience is, but we never really address that segment directly. And so I think that having this conversation is important, because you're right in your boots on the ground, right? Yeah. You're right in the trenches of that. And I feel like you're doing some things right. As much as you say it's coming to you, you're taking that and running with it. And I always like to talk to people who hustle. So I appreciate that, Kim.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And keep on spinning, everybody. This has been the Passionate DJ Podcast.
I saw this one thing online. So this one, I guess you could like a dubstep producer, Snails. He had posted something, I guess, on Twitter, and everyone's talking about it now. It's I guess some sort of challenge or fun thing. A bunch of DJs just throw their USB into a bag or a hat or whatever, yes. And then you draw one, and then I guess you have a day to figure out whatever, and then you just play a set off of someone else's music.
I love that idea.
That would be so insane.
Trip talks about on the show sometimes. He used to do that with his DJ buddies with record crates. They would have get-togethers, and they'd be like, you can play any record you want as long as it isn't one of yours. So you'd have to pull something out of somebody else's crate and just figure it out.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about how that would make you such a more well-rounded DJ, because you don't know the music, so you're just, okay, hopefully this has at least 32 bars of intro that I can work with or whatever, and if not, oh well.
Yeah, I think that would be so cool.
Keep you on your toes.
Theoretically, that would be so cool. But, I mean, you could bomb it, but, I mean, it's...
That's part of the fun, though. It's risky.
Yeah. Right? I think that would, I mean, should that be, a big event? Probably not. I think it should be a more intimate setting.
Oh, sure.
Because, if you're going to pay money to go to a big event and someone just fucks it all up, that's not going to be cool.
Plus, you'll get more participation if you're around people you're comfortable with than you will, hey, you want to get on stage and look like a jackass?
Right.
Not particularly.
Yeah.
But there's an episode of the podcast, I'll have to go see which number it is because I can't remember, but where we talked about kind of mixing games like that, and there were 5 or 10 of them, I think. I'll see if I can dig those up and send it to you. You'd appreciate that. They'd have different versions of that.
Yeah.
With catches.
Right. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a more intimate setting, it's okay, so now you kind of know like what kind of vibe I have, you know, but then to give me someone else's library, what I would make of that, you know what I mean? Like that would be a whole, I mean, I think that, I don't even know how to word it, but that would be, it would make more sense than doing it, let's say at like a festival or, you know, at the Mask or something, you know, because you know what that person sounds like already.
Yeah, probably the only way you'd want to do that is if you marketed it specifically to DJs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like take an EDM Tuesday kind of night that's like kind of dwindling right now, nothing's really happening. Maybe make like a night that's geared towards DJs, and that's the whole point of it, and you make kind of a spectacle out of it, and maybe have an MC and like comment over it and razz people and stuff. Like you could turn that into an event if you wanted to, if you're creative enough to figure all that out, and you had the audience for it. But in general, I don't think you want to just do that. Like, come to Mask and watch everyone
just fuck up,
look terrible, and sound awful.
I mean, so like when we first started doing like the pop-up silent discos, like the second one, so like Nathaniel wanted to do something different, like DJ wise, because if we're gonna have them 2 weeks in a row, they got to be different, you know. Like there's got to be something, and so we. I think at least 2 or 3 times we had multiple people on like each channel. I think.
So you like rotated DJs or?
Well, so John was on green with me, and so we were working on 2 separate controllers. So we couldn't really back to back because there's no. Main.
You didn't have a master mixer or something between the two of you?
We could have done that, but in terms of mixing, I wouldn't be able to hear him and myself, you know, because there's
and
just
you were separated, right?
Well, for that one, when we were on the same channel, we were on the same stage.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But,
that helps.
Yeah, so if I was, you know, we would both have to be plugged into the mixer, which we didn't have an extra, you know, plug for. And so just, we couldn't, like, beat match, we couldn't hear the other person, right? So back-to-back was not a thing, but so we did, like, 30-minute, like, me, 30-minute him. But just to, like, switch things up was maybe a little bit of, like, a fumble, just because the disco crowd, they're used to what they're used to, you know, and then once you switch things up and, you know, John playing on green, which he's not used to, you know, the crowd's not used to that either. So, you know, to kind of like bring it back full circle, you know, to have...
It's funny how stuck in our ways we get.
Yeah, you know, well, I mean, and also the format of the night itself and, you know, how I, you know, take the energy, you know, John's not used to that.
Yeah.
Or doesn't know how to work green the way that I do.
John has a different style. He hits the ground running usually.
Well,
right? I mean, tempo wise and energy wise, he's like all out from the first moment. A lot of the time, and he's really energetic.
He likes to do mashups and you know, play vocals from other songs over, you know, a song.
Yeah, he's very active DJ.
So, you know, to have a crowd of people who are coming and, you know, having a certain expectation of that DJ, to hear them not play that thing, you know, they're just like, well, this is...
It's just funny to think of, like, well, I've been to silent disco 3 times, and this is not how green has been. Like, I
mean, that's, you know...
It's just funny how, like, that habit that, you know, how habitual we are as human creatures.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy because... You know, I'm on, like, that main stage almost every single time, and there are people who don't know what I look like, you know, and they
just noticed the music wasn't the same.
Yeah, like, they don't look up there, that's not a big deal to them.
Yeah.
You know, they're just here. So when it sounds different, it's weird, you know.
Yeah.